My autistic brothers and sisters, you need to realize that your autism is not a hindrance to your life. Oh no. Rather, it is a bag of unique skills that put you above most neurotypicals in a wide range of activities and professions. You are blindsided by the obvious facts that neurotypical people are better at processing sensory inputs than us, intuitively understand social cues much more comfortably and naturally than us, and adapt better than us to pre-organized institutions and structures, i.e. the school environment. Because of our negative experiences in school, we have a much harder time coping to all these resources that are adapted solely for the neurotypical's way. And that can make us feel defeated. We tend to forget our strengths because of this. So let me remind you of your greatness right here, our greatness. I'll tell you from a personal perspective. When I was about 2 years old in nursery, I was already struggling with the school environment and I wasn't even a year into it. It was so bad. So we had some audio lessons where we would hear the sounds of certain things and we would associate it with something. So if they played waves, we'd say, oh, that's the ocean. So one day they were playing baby crying noises and it was on a really loud volume. And these baby noises, they were way too much for my head to cope. It was so loud, it was so obnoxious to me. I couldn't cope, and so I started crying and crying. Same with the lessons where we brought in balloons, blew them up and sat on them because I found it fun. You know, it was comfy, squishy. I liked to fidget with things when I was younger. I used to have putty and I used to squish it. And I did the same with the balloon, but then pop! And that set me off. I could not deal with it. I hated it. It was scary. It was as if some bomb had detonated in the building. And it made me really paranoid. And then fast forward 2 years and I arrived in reception in the classroom. New school, new environment. I was already upset. I hated being in somewhere I wasn't familiar with. It was uncomfortable. And the classroom was set up in a new way. I hate change. It set me off. I couldn't deal with it. It haunted me for years that I couldn't cope in simple environments. But then, when I was about 10 years old, I realized my first strength. In fact, I'd already realized some strengths before that, but now it really started to come out as I used my strengths of incredible memorization skills with other people in a social context. So I always liked looking at astronauts or world records, tall heights, big buildings, all of that really infatuated me. But then I started reading Guinness World Records and I had a girl I fancied, so I decided to read out the facts to her for about 15 minutes straight every break and impress her, and it made me feel really good. I realized there and then that I had some useful traits that made me special in a way, and some adults called me special too. That really boosted my confidence a lot. But when I became a teenager, it was time for my new challenge. I knew that I was still quite behind in my social development skills, so I decided to become popular, and every kid wanted to become popular when they were younger. So I took it upon myself to become a social king. I wanted to break the barriers that were holding me back. And so for a couple of years, I climbed the popularity ladder, playing with all sorts of friend groups in school at patball, being competitive, trying to prove myself in a way, and it felt good. And then eventually, when I was 16 years old, everyone started to gather in the parks. This was right after the lockdown measures eased. And there would be hundreds of people, all my age, all gathered there. It was like the whole of London gathered in one place for a massive party every day, and I joined in. So I saw some people I was already familiar with, my good friends from school, and they connected better with people from my old school or people from the rival schools, and I just got to chat with them and be normal. And after only a couple weeks of this, I got used to it. And by that point, I was confident enough to approach any social situation with no fear. This marked the beginning of my leadership arc in my life when I was 17 years old, by bringing together my friends, my close friends, who hadn't found a friend group yet, and I decided to lead our group. And so the four of us went on many adventures that year, even linking up with some girl groups, going out to the beach and all that. And that, I believe, is the ultimate step in mastering your skill. The final stage, metaphorically speaking. You know how the final stage of learning is teaching the thing you were learning? That displays mastery. Well, that's the exact same thing that leadership in a friend group does to you. If you can guide a friend group, then you have very much mastered making friends. I showed my friends how we could go out, have fun, and be socially accepted because we were all neurodiverse. The lessons I shared with them and also their experiences feedbacking to me, we became a solid pack and we went out all the time that year. And ultimately, we went out and had a load of fun. It took a long time, but eventually I did it. And so now I aspire to do the same for those people who were in my shoes all those years ago, but never quite finalized that last skill of being able to be socially fluid in any social situation. People who have completed school and are still missing that little skill. I need you to realize that through my experience, it is indeed possible to become socially accepted and fit in with the crowd. And that is why I have now opened my newly rebranded community page, which is essentially like a Patreon. Let me get into more detail about that. So before I had one option available on the community, and it was one-to-one autism socializing services, and it was very expensive, and I felt that that one tier didn't allow it to be very accessible to people who want to talk to me and get my help. And now I have 3 tiers of payment plans for my community page, starting with just $5 a month. But I don't use Patreon, I use school.com. I feel like school.com is better because it has a lot more functionality. Imagine Kajabi, the course training website, and Discord merged into one. It has all the functionality of both. And they don't take a big 30% cut of your payment like YouTube does, or 8 to 12% like Patreon does. It takes only 2.9% plus 30 cents. So for $5 a month, you can chat to me in the forum and I can respond to your questions. I will send you my final drafts of my upcoming YouTube videos before they are released. I have other forum members in there who you can chat to. The one who joined last Friday is an academic with lots of experience in publishing peer-reviewed articles and publishing research methods in autism research. So you can talk to him and me, and you can suggest video ideas for me to make in the future. So that's what you get for a $5 a month payment. I also have payment plans for access to my future courses and one for my personal one-to-one help. So there you have it. To learn more, please click the link in the description and you can watch the video there for more detail. So I hope that you have learned that it is possible to adapt to new social situations if you are a high-functioning autistic person like me, especially considering that I was the worst case of disruptive behavior back in my school. And trust me, I don't think you were half as bad as me back in school. So in summary, know your strengths. Don't be afraid to step out into uncomfortable new environments, especially those to do with social situations. And finally, become the leader and teach the skills to your friends who are maybe a bit behind you and are struggling in the social scene. Then you will become a master at socializing. Thank you so much for listening. I hope that this video taught you a lot about your strengths as a person with autism, and you should use your skill wisely to become the best version of yourself. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.